Close your eyes for a moment and imagine dawn over a Cambodian village. Smoke from cooking fires, wooden boats rocking on a canal, a low drum calling people toward the temple grounds. Children run with woven baskets of flowers. Elders smooth their sarongs and greet each other with small bows. Have you ever wondered how a single year, measured in months and moons, can hold so many lives, labors, and songs?
In today's episode, we're exploring Khmer New Year, how a 3-day celebration of time, water, and renewal carries centuries of memory and hope for Cambodians everywhere.
Welcome to Ancient Echoes, where we dive deep into the heart of Cambodian culture and history. I'm your host, Samnang Bradley, and joining me is my co-host, Rachana Soul. Today, we follow the Khmer year from planting to harvest through festivals that stitch communities together.
We'll walk through its origins, the way families prepare and celebrate, and what these rituals reveal about how Cambodians understand community, change, and starting again. Let's unpack that and hear what the calendar actually maps for everyday life.
Here's the roadmap. First, we'll explain how the Khmer calendar works, the mix of moon and sun, and the practical reasons farmers and families follow it. Next, we'll move through 3 seasonal moments: planting, harvest, and festival season, highlighting rituals, music, and food. Finally, we'll talk about how these practices survive in towns and cities, how they vary across regions, and how visitors can engage respectfully.
Let's begin with the calendar itself. The Khmer year blends lunar months with solar adjustments so that seasonal markers, like the rains or the harvest, stay aligned. Think of it as a conversation between the moon, which sets the months, and the sun, which anchors the seasons. Farmers learned these rhythms by watching sky and soil, and over centuries those practices were woven into communal life.
From a cultural standpoint, this blending matters because it ties rituals to ecological realities. The months mark more than dates. They cue planting, water management, and communal work. The deeper story is how calendars act as living guides, oral knowledge encoded in rituals, songs, and the timing of festivals.
Key terms to keep in mind: lunar months, intercalary months, which are added to keep lunar and solar cycles aligned, and the agricultural markers, when the monsoon arrives, when fields are planted, and when rice is harvested. These terms might sound technical, but in villages, they're part of conversation. When will the rains come really means, when can we plant?
The origins of this system are layered. Astronomical observation, centuries of farming practices, and community rituals all shaped the calendar. The pattern shows us a pragmatic intelligence. People kept time to survive, and those temporal practices became meaningful markers of identity and memory.
Now, let's step into the fields. Planting season is not just work. It's a sequence of blessings, songs, and reciprocal giving. Villagers organize labor exchanges, families gather to prepare seedbeds, and elders lead simple rituals to ask for a good yield. These are practical and symbolic acts. They protect seedlings, coordinate labor, and reaffirm obligations between kin and neighbors.
The cultural significance is visible in how communities mark water and land. Offerings near canals, songs directed to the fields, and shared meals after a day of work are all part of sustaining social bonds. The tradition teaches us that agriculture is always social. A harvest depends on many hands and many relationships.
Harvest time, by contrast, carries both relief and celebration. People gather to thresh and winnow, to trade rice, and to host feasts that redistribute bounty. Music returns to central places: drumming, singing, dance. In the simplest terms, the year's work becomes the year's gifts: food for families, offerings to ancestors, and the material basis for festivals.
That's where culture lives, in the hands that pass baskets, in the songs that teach younger people how to plant straight rows, and in the recipes that travel down generations. The evidence shows us that festivals often grow from these everyday practices, ways to rehearse gratitude, to redistribute wealth within a village, and to renew social ties.
Speaking of festivals, let me bring you into a procession. Picture colored cloths, the headman's gentle nod, children carrying lamps, families preparing sticky rice and grilled fish. Processions move through the village, pausing at homes so neighbors can exchange greetings and small plates. Food is central. What's shared becomes a social statement about belonging and standing in the community.
The meaning runs deep in performance arts too. Traditional music and dance are not only entertainment, they encode histories and moral lessons, and they help younger generations learn language, rhythm, and social cues. So when a village troupe performs, they're doing more than singing. They're performing continuity.
Regional variation matters. Rice varieties, meal compositions, and even timing of ceremonies shift from province to province and between lowland plains and upland communities. If you travel and notice differences, that's part of the richness, not a contradiction, but a dialogue of practices across landscapes.
Oral transmission is central to keeping these traditions alive. Songs, recipes, and ritual formulas are taught at home and in communal spaces. Listen closely to older storytellers, and you'll hear layers, practical instructions, moral cues, and family histories folded into one song. The research tells us that these small acts of teaching are the backbone of cultural continuity.
But traditions also change. Migration to cities, shifting livelihoods, and modern calendars mean some rituals adapt or shrink. That said, community creativity keeps the core alive. Through school programs, local festivals, and digital sharing, people invent ways to fit old practices into new lives, and those inventions are meaningful cultural work.
For visitors and listeners who want to engage respectfully, observe before participating, ask permission, and follow local cues. Offer support to community-led preservation. Buy from local artisans. Attend performances organized by local groups, and share images only with consent. The cultural significance is not a tourist attraction. It's someone's living heritage.
To recap, the Khmer year is a living map. It keeps ecological wisdom in conversation with social practice. Planting and harvest shape labor and reciprocity. Festivals animate memory, music, and food. And variation between regions and families reminds us that culture is plural, not monolithic.
If this episode moved you, please share your memories or photos of Cambodian festivals with us on social media. We'd love to see how these rhythms show up in your life and to hear questions for future episodes. Consider visiting Samnang's YouTube channel for visuals that complement today's stories. The deeper story is in the details you notice and share.
Next time on Ancient Echoes, we'll trace the material culture of Khmer festivals, the costumes, the instruments, and the crafts that travel across seasons. Let's unlock the echoes of history together.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Ancient Echoes. We hope these stories helped you see Cambodian history and culture in a deeper, more human way. Thank you for listening.
The echoes of the past live on in people's voices, memories, and everyday lives. Thank you for listening and for making space for these stories. If this episode resonated, follow Ancient Echoes on your favorite podcast app and share it with someone who might appreciate these conversations. Until next time.
In the quiet of night, I whispered my plea, holding her close, hoping for her decree. I called upon spirits, asked them to guide, to take her heart and lead her by my side. So I drew her near, traced her brow so fair, my sight this way. Warm, sacred secret power, Swahai, mighty spirit awaken. By the master's right, let her heart be gently taken. Let her follow me now by vow and by sign. I hear these words, oh teacher, witness this plea. Oh, my sacred power, Swahai.